Hope nobody that's in here has been a bear. We haven't. I'm not going to go too much into it. Anyway, I'm not going to ramble on. Let's just kind of get into this. Glorious days. Hopefully, we'll see some sort of reversal, or we'll see some sort of what's the word? Da, 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 da. Some sort of change in the market than the obvious. Like we just needed to push down. And depending on what you look at, maybe it's not as obvious. But for me, going based off the DXY ever since the beginning of the year, anyway, I was basing it off of here. We had a weird spike up, which I am going to be completely honest. I don't understand why or what this was doing. Anyway, but when we look at it from the context of this, it makes no sense. When we look at it, I'll just go over this quick because I kind of go over it every video. But when we look at the context from here also as well, it really just makes no sense why anyone based off the dollar index, which does seem ever since it started trending down in September, why or late September, pretty much October, why anyone would be bearish on most things, unless it's like an individual specific stock that has something going on with it, like maybe like Carvana, I think, before the recent pump, before like actually, I think even Carvana was doing pretty well. I don't want to get too much off into a tangent, but even yeah, even they've been doing well ever since January 1st. We'll see what happens though. I'll get to that later. So, with the dollar index, what do we need to know? What we're looking for, just a quick overview. We're looking for a day to start above here, not reach above. I don't give a crap about that. We're looking for reversal. We want a day to start above here. We could try to probably push here. Most likely, we're going to push down anyway if we did something like that. But it couldn't even do that. So now here we are. The Fed increased rates by 25 basis points. Woohoo! Great. Yay. I don't know what bears were expecting. Woohoo. Maybe something happened that I wasn't paying attention to, but I don't know why anyone would be a bear nowadays. You got to be pretty dumb to be a bear in these times right now. And it's like I get it kind of from the macro sense, but depending on what you're looking at, let's be honest, depending on what somebody's looking at, even from a macro sense, this is just like a basic fib, just taken from a weighted area, from weighted bottom here to a reasonable top. It looks a little bit better when you look at it on the daytime here. To like a somewhat reasonable top. Like it looks a lot better when you look at it on the daytime around here. I could even lower this a little bit, to be honest. It probably could be lowered. Let's see. We could lower whatever. I don't know where it is, but this could be lowered down, but I would put it here. This is where I would put it at most. So it's not that much of a difference. But even just based off of that in a macro sense, looking at the dollar index, I mean, this is the lowest the dollar has been on the data that I have anyway, from '08, and we just take it from '08, we take it from here, and we can clearly see some of these areas. We can see these ranges. We can see we hit around the 2618. Even if we lower this, all this is going to do is bring this down, and it'll look like this actually hit. I might have adjusted this slightly on accident. Where is this? 9283? No, I don't think I did, but it doesn't matter. It's just ranges, right? I don't care about specific numbers per se. Um, like if you think something's going to go to 8, right? You generally sell at 7.9 or 7, like 7 point, you just 7.8 to like 7.9. Generally, you don't wait to sell at the whole number. Anyway, so from macro perspective, I don't know. It just blows my mind. It blows my mind. Um, so anyway, I guess let's get into the what's important. So 350. We'll do it at 4 minutes, easier timestamp. So what are we looking for? It's the same thing I've been saying before. We're looking for a bounce at 99 to not be as bullish. If we get a hard drop and we start bouncing at 99.45, that range 99.45 to now 100.2. This is where we're looking for a possible bounce. It is more, even though when it comes down here, it does have the possibility with the current run that it's been doing right now, there's a much higher possibility that it'll continue to be bullish and we will actually see something down in, is it this side? I don't have it anymore. But it's everything's more bullish than it is bearish. Even though we could have a reversal right in this area finally coming back down, we can see some of this nice stuff and how it's reacted to some of these averages. It's not always perfect, but it's nice. We come above, find support. Boom. This is January, the beginning of the year. So just going off the DXY, you could see something like this. And there's also some nice stuff here also as well. October 1st, you could also see even before January hit, you could see this reversal here on the week of October 1st. So the month's a lot stronger. We could be coming all down all the way to 94. That is definitely possible for the dollar. Um, but before that, we do have to contend with this area right here, which does look okay. Um, Relative to everything else, I don't think it looks the best. And I'll just put it the way that what I'd like to see. So we could bounce here. It's kind of tough to see it like just bouncing here. I believe we'd have to spend a couple weeks here. What I think is a lot more likely, especially at this point, especially wasting all this gosh dang time up here, I think it's likely we can actually fall through this. This looks like a much stronger bounce point down here at 98.3, maybe at like 98.2, 98.2 to like 98.32. But for this to really engage, in my opinion, we're going to then have to bounce here and then get up above. We're going to have to get right back up above these two averages, wherever they might be at that time. And the way I see it is there's a high possibility we get a fairly decent sell off, but then it comes back down. I think it's a lot more likely that this comes back down and then we contend with this 95 area all the way down to this 94. So pretty much these two areas right here. And I think this is quite a bit more likely personally to happen at this point. So we'll see. I mean, especially if the Fed's going to reverse on stuff, but even not caring about the fundamentals from that and just looking at the dollar index and basing our actions off of the dollar index, the more likely bounce spot is down here. There's a high chance that this will get trapped under here. We could have bounced here pretty well, but we spent 1, 2, 2.5. Like we could say this is a half, I guess. So we spent half a week, 1.5, 2.5, 3. So we spent 3.5, or we spent 3 weeks in this area, and the bounce point's right here. So the idea that we're gonna get past these lows, pretty much this area right here, seems fairly unlikely. Though it's possible, it seems fairly unlikely. And then the issue with that is that we can come down, we can get rejected here, and then we push under this. We bounce here, we come up just to get rejected, and then we push down towards reasonable support. So I personally think that's what's going to happen. Now, this is great if you have money in the market, but the big issue about this, time and time again, the huge issue about this is the dollar. You're losing a crap ton of purchasing power in the dollar. One, you're also having pretty high averages that almost always react, fallen through. And kind of the implication of this is when we look at commodities. So when the dollar is getting wrecked, yes, you're losing purchasing power on pretty much on average to most other currencies. But you're also going to have things like gold shoot up in price. You're going to have things like copper. I don't know where copper is. HGI. You're going to have things like copper shoot up in price. We'll see if it can get past this where it is right now. We kind of just see on its own week time frame. It's doing a little battling right here. But with everything going on, it should be relatively fine. But this stuff is relatively high for what it is, and it doesn't look like it's coming down anytime soon. And if the dollar is going to go down to what I think it could go down to, so if we talk about going down from here, possibly down to this 95.7 or here, that's another 6.5% down. It's going to push almost every commodity through wherever it is already right now. We'll see about oil though. It's a little bit more contentious, but this is really bad essentially for people that don't mess with the stock market, just your layman's average people. Um, it's not a good thing. So we kind of beat the dead horse with this. I just feel like I always have to go over it because the dollar index seems to always just be the trade. Just look at the dollar index, and it seems to be the easiest way to look at things. But now we can go back to the VIX, and I don't know how much time I'm going to get into other stuff because I've been saying this stuff again and again and again and again, and again, and oh, I'm right again. Wow, it's like I will tell you, I'm not right about everything. So I did sell some of my Mara, which it could go up more. But I did get a somewhat sizable position in at 104 on fun. So I didn't really today. I haven't really reaped any rewards. I haven't lost a single thing this year. I've been right on almost everything. But I am a little bit sad about Fun not pushing up. Maybe it was a better choice to be in something that was a little bit more stable, though I still think Fun has a decent chance of pushing up for what it's worth. So, right. So it's not like I'm perfect. But the downtrend on the dollar and the VIX is just obvious. So some things we want to pay attention to on the VIX. I called this. This was easy to call. Once again, we're looking for something to try to start above or look a little bit better. Here we had something different because we had the month time frame, so we actually like bounced into this stuff before we pushed up. So we're under both time frames here. We started the month time frame under here also as well for February, so that's going to be a little bit tricky also as well. We didn't start in a 375, but we did start under one of the averages, so it's a little sketchy. So we've done what I thought. We come down here and we push. What do we not want to see? The same thing I've said every single time. We do not want to see a weak start under here in this relative range. Now, I believe if it does push down to like 16, anywhere in like this area, I do believe the VIX is going to want to push back up just by virtue um, of like taking profits or like anybody using the VIX is anything like that. I mean, the VIX, I don't know how to explain it specifically, but it's just one of those things. If you start to, even though it's just kind of derivative off of other stuff, as opposed to having its own trading itself, if we start all the way down here, we're going to expect to push back up just to test, not expecting that it's going to just then come here and shoot up, but that it's going to come back up and test the trend line that it's been bouncing off for, like at least 3 years anyway. So we get a formation here in 17. We get our first initial bounce, then 1, 2, right? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And these are fairly big bounces every time it bounces. So that's that. That's the VIX. It's pushed down quite a bit. One thing to note, we also do have it is not unknown for the VIX to do this before it shoots back up. It is not unknown to push all the way down. So that's the key thing to note right now is that we have pushed here under, but these candles also look like that before it pushed up. It's only like this now because you only see wicks here because it pushed up. So if this pushes up, you're going to see something similar. So we could be fighting around this range. That's why I think it's very important to see whether we start above or under. What is it? 718. Pretty much 718 is where it is. Can we start above or under 18? More specifically, the important thing is can we start? Are we going to start under? If we start under, I would especially like I was saying before in this range, we really should expect. I reasonably expect, especially with the dollar, that the dollar is probably just going to fall through that 100 area, and the VIX is going to then start continuing down, and we could see one of the craziest starts to a year in a long time. So let's go to some other stuff. So I don't really know what the hell there's to talk about. Nothing's really changed with the dollar. We're back up here. We never broke under, so there's never really any reason to like go short on the dollar. 26, it's not 26K anymore. 25,900 is the target for where it is now, and then between 25,900 and 36.5. So it has to beat here. We'll see what happens. It's possible we get a reversal with the VIX and the dollar at the two stated places I was talking about because we are dropping towards it pretty quickly. That'll just have to be seen. Like I said before, makes it really contentious. The idea that we will just bounce down here. With this, I still do think we'll come down here. So we could see maybe we end up seeing Bitcoin come to 36K before. But like I said, 25,800 is the expected place for it to go to. So yeah, the SPY, nothing really too different, right? This is really bad for it to come down. We started right above, as you can see. So boom, ever since 2 days ago, there's no real reason to be bearish on the SPY. The Nasdaq itself isn't really the same, but there are some nice things about the Nasdaq, I guess I could say from a week time frame perspective. We came down to the expected spot if we like I was saying if we broke through, like right, you break through, obviously you're going to come down to here. Um and then like if you break through here, obviously you're going to come down to here. It just makes sense. So the week did start off somewhat strong. These are our ranges. We are close to a little bit of resistance, so we'll see how this kind of pans out. I'm not a big fan of the Nasdaq. Be straight up between 25.5, 25.5 or 12,550 and this 12,660 range. I think it looks a lot better. I mean, honestly, I think it's a lot better once we get above 12,660. But we'll see what happens. I'm not super against this, but I'm just not a big fan. It's a really small range to fight for, so I'm just not a big fan of it. But that's just the Nasdaq. I mean, if everything else looks good, it should just push up anyway. And with an overall expectation of the Nasdaq possibly, I don't even know, where is it? Possibly coming back to what is this at right now? 14,500, I think seems fairly reasonable for what it is right now. The big thing is we could be breaking this downtrend, so that I suppose that's the biggest thing for the Nasdaq right now. Kind of break that downtrend. The expected value to go up for Dow Jones, not really a great start to the week right there, to be honest. I don't think the Dow is really driving anything. Nice, okay buy points. I'm going to say nice, but okay buy points here. It's hard to call that nice when this has been such a delineating line. Still waiting for the Dow Jones to get above right here, 35,000. Then I think the Dow looks pretty nice. But I'd like to see it above 35,000. It's currently 35,083 right now. Until it does that, I don't really, not a huge fan of the indice itself specifically. Apple looking okay for what it is. We'll see if we can start back above. This should be, oh, I guess this is still here. But we can possibly enter this range all the way up to 155 with a possible extension all the way up to 160. There's not really much else to say. It's just been pretty ugly. This is an okay start, pushed all the way down here. I don't know why I pushed all the way down right to this trend line. It needs to start. Really, for bears, you got to have it start here, and then you bring it back in this range, and then you really got to start it here, and then you bring it back in this range. But these are all really small ranges that are, it's kind of hard to do something like that. And then you got to bring it here and then you got to get it like it's just a lot of levels you got to push it into. And there's not a lot of free space pushing Apple down anywhere, which is kind of an issue. Amazon, fairly easy to see with some of this stuff, expectation wise, especially it's 2 days ago. Especially 2 days ago. So like here, with the S&P reversal. So it was a little bit sketchy back here, but when we saw the S&P have a nice reversal, yes, 2 days, I guess 2 days ago technically now, but the last candle, it's pretty straightforward. We could see here, right, nice start above, come down, find support. Market doesn't drag it back down. I expect somewhere around 112. Mara looks pretty decent for what it is. I think we should have. Looking at it here, we get a little more context also as well. We come back to the, what is this, the point 0.5, I think? Yeah, it doesn't look that big, but yeah, the point 0.5. I think we could push up through here again. I think the Bitcoin still has some room to push. It just hasn't been as attractive as some other things have been. So we'll kind of see. I mean, if Bitcoin can push to 26K, this should be able to at least double top or get push all the way back up there. I'm currently in fun. We'll see if this pushes up. I think it looks relatively nice for what it's worth, but it has about 25% gain, so it's kind of sitting in stocks of that. I'm not messing with options with it because that's a waste of time. The spread is horrible on that too. It's like it's literally 50% increments, or it's 5 cent increments, but percent wise, it's like 100% up off of the base of what you're paying, or it's like 50% down. So if I buy something for 10 cents and it goes against me, at best I lose 50%. Like that's not really cool. I'll continue this with another video after, I suppose, going over some of these other specific ones. There's nothing really here. I would be wary of pushing up to 220. We'll just kind of see what happens with that right now, and we'll just put this back under the dollar index because I don't get a lot of views when I put it under the dollar index as opposed to Apple or something else, but this is a dollar index video.